So hello, everyone. Yes, I said yes to doing this. This dish that I'm doing, Chiles en Nogada, is a dish that I've made before, but it's been quite a long time. So it's been a good experience pulling out all my things. One of the things to let you know is that I did live in Mexico City in the mid 80s. And I have family that lives in Mexico City. So I'm going to be sending them a link to this video. They'll be really happy to see me cooking this dish. I want to tell you a little bit about it. Chiles en Nogada is a national dish of Mexico, and I am cooking from, let me see here, let's get to the right page. I'm cooking from Diane Kennedy's book. She published it in 1972, and I have the reprinting from the 1980s. Diane Kennedy is known, Diane Kennedy is known as an amazing cook and cookbook author of recipes from Mexico. This is her Cuisines of Mexico. And I will say that she's received the Order of the Aztec Eagle, the highest honor of its kind bestowed on foreigners by the Mexican government. She's just really quite a wonderful expert on traditional Mexican cuisine. So I used her recipe. I've made a few changes to make it a little easier. She even talks about it because it's got a picadillo in it, which is kind of a meat mixture. And oftentimes today people use ground meats, and she that she chops and she boils a little bit, sets aside, and then shreds and chops up. I did go with a mixture of ground pork and ground bison. So I did a little bit different. I've seen recipes that also use ground turkey. So one of the things to know, and I'm going to read from her book because she's got a little nice synopsis, that this recipe is said to have been concocted by the grateful people of Puebla, who were giving a banquet in honor of Don Agustin de Iturbi's Saints' Day in August 28th, 1821. He and his followers had led the final revolt against the Spanish domination. So this was the independence of Mexico in the early 1800s. And this was a banquet. They had just signed the Treaty of Cordoba. And this was a banquet with all sorts of dishes that were concocted to celebrate Mexico and the colors of the Mexican flag. So this dish has the green of the chili, the white of this walnut sauce, and the red of the pomegranate seeds. And so it's considered a very traditional national dish, and it's often served in September for Mexico Independence Day, September 16th. So here we go. I wish I could take questions from you as I go. I don't know that that's possible, but we'll do questions at the end. I've done some prep.
Kim, if you prefer,
Yeah?
I can read them out loud to you as we go along.
Sure, that would be fine. Any questions so far? Okay. So I am going to start. I've done some prep already. You can see I've got things kind of measured out. I've been working on this since 9 o'clock this morning. So I've already put, so it's not an easy dish. So it's got a lot of different things, different moving pieces. So I'm putting the drippings from cooking the meat. 3, 4, 5. I'm supposed to put 6. And so it didn't quite make 6 because I didn't use all pork. I used the bison, which is very low fat. So I'm going to put a little bit more. It's supposed to be 6 tablespoons. Okay. And we're going to. And then we're supposed to put onion and garlic and the cooked meat, because I already cooked the meat, in. So here's the onion and the garlic.
So the thing is, this is a time when I wish I had a gas stove. I've lived my entire life since, well, I grew up with a gas stove, but as an adult, I've only had electric. And this is when a gas stove would have been nice. Also, while we're waiting for this to heat and I'll put the meat in, why don't we go over here, Jocelyn? I've prepared the chilies already. And let me tell you, this is the part about doing this dish, also chiles rellenos, which is the most time consuming because you have to roast them. And I couldn't do it on a flame on a stove, so I did it in the broiler. Then you put them in a sack, a paper sack, for about 20 minutes. And then you have to peel all the skins off. And it's super time consuming. So I did 4 of them. I had intended 6, but I stopped. So I'll show you. This is one that hasn't been peeled yet. But so you have to go and you have to do this peeling of all the skin. Oh, this one's coming off quite nicely. Jocelyn can tell you, she was here as I was doing this earlier and I was super frustrated. But anyway, so we'll leave it for now. It'll be for later. And these are what I'm gonna stuff. Okay, so starting to heat up. Okay. Now for the meat. This is the bison and the pork. So again, I'll read you what Diane, you can see when I send you the recipe. Diane takes 2 pounds of boneless pork and she cuts it into large cubes. She puts it in the pan and cooks it with some onion, garlic, and salt in cold water. Cooks for about 40 to 45 minutes. Leaves the meat to cool and cool off in the broth. She strains the meat, removes the broth, and that's what I used to use the fat for this second cooking. And then she shreds and finally chops that pork meat. I used ground meat. So now, as that's heating, I put together, so I actually do have a molcajete. This is a tool in the Mexican kitchen. It's for crushing spices. If you really want to make a mole from scratch, you would do all your spices in a molcajete. There's all sorts of different uses for it, but it's mainly a mortar and pestle kind of thing. And I have in here peppercorns, cloves, and cinnamon. And I'm going to crush.
Where would you suggest purchasing a molcajete, Kim?
Go down to Barrio Logan, down to Northgate. I'm sure they have them. Or I don't know. I went to get my chiles poblano in the tienda on the corner of Claremont Mesa and Claremont Drive. That's where I got my chiles chiles poblano. I didn't see whether they had it, but they might. But I can't imagine that Northgate doesn't have it. So that's, and there's other Northgates in town. I just think about the one in Barrio Logan. The cinnamon's not wanting to. Okay. So now I'm gonna put this in. Oh, it smells wonderful. Okay. A little bit of salt. We don't usually put as much salt as the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons or to taste. And then I'm going to put the rest of the things in. So what's the ingredients are raisins and something called acitron, which is candied fruit chopped. And so what I used was this dried fruit mix, and in particular, the pineapple seemed to be a good choice. So I chopped up the pineapple. So I put that in. So Diane Kennedy, this is unique to her recipe. She says to put pear and peach in, which I thought was really interesting. So there's some pear and peach. And an important ingredient is the almonds, the blanched almonds. So this is a picadillo. And then finally we put some tomatoes in. Not to put the juice, because let's see how. It's really not about tomatoes, so it's not a heavy tomato kind of stuffing. Nope. I wish I had chopped my onions a little finer. I was in a hurry. Any other questions, Vanya?
I don't see any in the chat, but I do have one myself. I know that this is very similar to chiles rellenos. What would you say differentiates it really from that dish?
Yeah, thanks for asking me that, because there is a discussion by Diane Kennedy about a debate whether the chiles should be egg coated and battered and cooked, and she doesn't like it that way. It is also, this dish is served cold, so this is not served as a warm dish. And so then when so we're doing the stuffing. The stuffing is very similar. So adding in the peaches and pears in her version is different for chiles en nogada. So that's a difference. And then because she actually uses in her book, she goes between chile rellenos and chiles en nogada. So it's kind of all together. So then the other thing is there's this sauce that I'm going to make, which is a walnut sauce. So that isn't part of chiles relleno. So, and that's really what makes the white, the green, the white, and the pomegranate seeds. And pomegranate seeds aren't part of chiles relleno either. So those are so it's kind of like, you're right, it's kind of a variation on chiles relleno, but it's not, and I've never had chiles en nogada with batter either, with egg and batter. And no cheese. That's another part. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to let that simmer just a little bit. I'm going to put a timer on. It says for about 10 minutes, but we've been cooking it a while. So okay, now I'm going to go to make the Nogada, the walnut sauce. I'll turn this down a bit. All right. Oops, it's wet here. I've had this book for a long time, so I don't want it. It was given to me by a good friend when I first moved here to San Diego. Didn't have it when I was in Mexico, so I've had it a long time. All right.
Kim, is this dish related to any Mexican holiday? That question from Suzanne.
Yes, I said earlier in my introduction, it's related. They often make it in September for September 16th for the Independence Day of Mexico. It was actually first served August 28th of 1821, but it's become associated with Independence Day, which is the 16th of September. It's also the time when the walnuts are freshly harvested. And so that's another thing now that I'm going to get into making the walnut sauce. Let me get back to the recipe. So the walnut sauce is supposed to be done with fresh walnuts that are peeled so we don't have the skins on them. Well, I don't have access to fresh walnuts, so I did the best I could to try to peel that brown skin off, but I was not successful. So one of the things you're supposed to do is put it in milk the night before and let it soak in milk overnight, which I've done. So now I'm going to put all the ingredients in the blender. So the ingredients are the soaked and drained walnuts. This is really curious to me. 1 piece of white bread. I have to tell you, I had to buy a loaf of white bread because I don't have white bread in this house. And it needs to be white because we don't want the darkness of a brown bread. So white bread. A 1/4 pound of queso fresco. A cup and a half of thick cream and Mexican cream, which is also like creme fraiche. So this is I got this Lala crema mexicana. So this is, and it's very much like creme fraiche. They're kind of interchangeable. They are interchangeable. So, and then a little bit of salt or sugar, depends on if you want it sweet or salt. I will stay with salt. And a large pinch of powdered cinnamon is optional. So I'm supposed to put all this in the blender. Okay. Sure you don't mess this.
While you're doing that, Kim, Anne asked, can chicken be substituted for pork in this recipe?
Yes, so I used a combination of bison and pork. I have seen recipes using turkey. I think you can put just any kind of ground meat that you want, or any kind of meat that you can get to be finely chopped and shredded. I think it's really up to you. So, but the traditional is pork. Okay, so once it doesn't say to tear up the white piece of bread, but I'm going to do that. I can't imagine that I just put it in whole. And then I put in the queso fresco, which, what did I do with the queso fresco? I had it all measured out. Oh, here it is. So here's the queso fresco. I am going to crumble in. So this is like, queso fresco is like a farmer's cheese. So, and then I will put in, so hopefully this little blender is going to be able to do this. Let's see, do a cup.
Did you include the crust? The crust of the bread is cut off then, Kim?
Yeah, oh yes, the custard for the, yes, absolutely. No brown. The thing is, it's supposed to be pure white. It is going to have a little bit of brown because I do still have some of the skins of, okay, this is, I wonder how this is going to go. I think I'm going to try this like this and I'll put in more later. Wish me luck. I always worry about blender things.
Maybe I should have. It says put it in all at once. I haven't done this in a long time, and I did it with other equipment. So there's no real water with this. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. Just kind of sitting there. I think if I were to do this again, I would put the cream on the bottom. I don't know how.
Don't worry, Kim. We'll make sure to invite you back for another food demo.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is not, I think I need to do it in batches. And then there's another half cup of cleaning that's supposed to go.
Suzanne recommends a Vitamix blender, which has a central plunger.
I'm gonna put the meat on. That looks good. Okay, there's the picadillo. These proportions, I almost think there's too many walnuts according to this recipe.
Well, she blends that. For those of you who follow our ethnic market series that the RA Programming Committee created for this year, they'll be visiting Barrio Logan, Northgate Market later this year or next year, early next year. So make sure to attend that, and maybe you'll make your own chiles en nogada with the ingredients you get from that market.
Oh, it's getting kind of good down here. So, okay. I think I'm not going to put, oops, okay. I think I'm going to put just the cream in. You know, I think when I did it, to tell you the truth, I didn't do it by proportion. I did it by feel to get the right consistency. Because this to me is too thick. We're almost there. Starting to be. The nuts need to be, you know, and maybe the other thing to do is to, well, okay, a couple of things. In Diane's recipe, you're starting with fresh nuts, and I'm not. So that could have something to do with it, that her fresh nuts would be much softer. So I think if you're starting with the type of nuts that we get in the store, that you need to.
Shirley asked if you would be able to use cream or milk for this, or would that just make the recipe not taste how it should?
What was that?
Cream or milk, would you be able to add that, or do you think that would just take away from the taste?
Well, so there's
that is-
lots of cream in here right now. If you look in it, I think it has to do with the nuts, not the nuts. Okay, what I was going to say, if you start with the kind of nuts that I'm starting with, I think you have to like grind them and get them to be finer before you start mixing in the other ingredients, because that's what's taking time, is getting the nuts to be a finer consistency. And we're kind of there. I'm just about. Yeah, so the thing is, the consistency you want is this, and maybe I will put a little bit of milk in. You want the nuts to be finely ground. Well, I am going to put just a little bit of milk. I don't want to put too much because I don't want it to get too soupy. Okay. Oops. Okay. Well, hopefully this isn't going to make it too soupy. Okay.
And Craig wants to comment that this is actually her favorite Mexican dish. She loves the combination of colors, textures, savory and sweet, and historical significance.
Oh, thank you, Anne. How am I doing?
Beautifully and bravely, she comments.
Beautifully and bravely. Thank you. Okay. All right, that last bit, I don't know if I needed that, but it was getting too soupy. So I'm putting all of, oh shoot. That's not so good. Okay. Make a mess of the blender. All right.
And Kim will be sharing the recipe with all of us after, and it'll be attached to the email that we shared the YouTube recording with. So you can look forward to that.
I think it's done. It's a little chunky, but the consistency, so I want you to see that is the correct consistency, that right there. So with the nuts, there's a few that are chunky in there, but it will work. All right. Okay, so let's see, how am I gonna assemble this? Here's the pomegranate seeds. We'll put this here. So I went out here. Wait. Okay, pretty much. I'm trying to think if there's anything here that she says. I mean, I'm just gonna stuff them. You stuff them and you put the Nogada over. Yep. Okay. That's it. She doesn't have any other advice. Let me get a spoon. And good deal. Now, if I were to do this again, I was kind of in a hurry trying to get everything ready for this. I would say that really the ingredients like the pears and the onions need to be more finely chopped. So you have to, when you make, you roast the chilies and you slit them like I've slit them, and then you take out the seeds and the any of the internal parts so that you have just this nice little. So hold on, I'm gonna I'm going to have them on a presentation butter here. And
when you peel the peppers themselves, Kim, do they irritate your hands at all? Should people wear
Nope.
gloves, perhaps, if they're more sensitive?
Well, I don't. Jocelyn and I were talking about it, that I probably shouldn't rub my eyes, because what happens with Chiles poblano is that some are spicy and some aren't. You don't know. And so you can have a really spicy one. And so you don't really want to be rubbing your eyes. But it didn't, no. And you're supposed to leave the tops on. You see that nice little top? So keep everything on. But no, it didn't irritate at all. Yeah, so I'm looking at this picadillo. I would chop it much more finely. It's a little bit rough. But it will taste good. I wish everybody could be here to taste it.
I'm sure it smells great. I'm so jealous of you and Jocelyn right now.
I guess Jocelyn gets to stay and eat, doesn't she? If she has time. So also when picking the chilies, you have to keep in mind, well, you don't have to, but I would say you could keep in mind the presentation and try to make similar, because they all, they come in different, they come squat, they come long, they come in different shapes. So, okay.
Yeah, Jocelyn. Please zoom in close to one of them and then at the end as well.
Okay. All right, so there's 4. Actually, it's just perfect for the 4. All right, so we'll move over here now. So I'm gonna wash my hands a little bit. I'm going to put the sauce on. Yeah, this was as you can tell, I didn't do this ahead of time, but I've made it before, but okay, yeah, this sauce looks good. All right. So there's different ways of doing the sauce. So the sauce is this wonderful walnut. Wow, I have more than enough sauce. Yeah. Okay. And then, where are my pomegranate seeds? And I would serve, with a dish of the sauce on the side because I have more than enough sauce. But you really want, for the presentation, you want to be able to see the green and the red. And there you go.
It looks fantastic. Wow.
Any questions?
Suzanne asked, are they pretty filling? Would one typically eat only just one, multiple? How has your experience been in that? And Anne, you can chime in here too, since you've had them before.
So this size, depending on the person, one could be enough with other side dishes. If they really like them, you could do two. I mean, two would also be okay. I would say not more than two, though. Maximum two. But depending on the person, one might be enough. But so, yeah, that's my answer.
What kind of side dishes would one normally eat with these?
Well, okay. So here in the United States, we have something called refried beans, but in the center of Mexico, they don't really serve refried beans. So they would have frijoles, but it would be either black beans or regular pinto beans in as a side. They would have beans and they would have rice. They would have a salad. You could have nopales with it, which is a kind of a cactus salad. You could have all sorts of different things. But I will make a comment that refried beans that we have here are not served in the center of Mexico. So that's really, and Anne can correct me if she wants, or she can agree with me. Anne, what would you suggest?
Mm-hmm. Feel free to unmute yourself, Anne, or put in the chat and I'll read it.
Well, those side dishes sound perfect. Sometimes I've seen the chiles as an appetizer.
Yes. Yeah. But it's an awful lot of work as an appetizer, but yes.
I made these once. Sorry.
No.
So,
that's actually perfect.
Anne, do they look okay?
They look gorgeous, Kim. I made these once 35 years ago, and peeling the walnuts did me in, so I've not made them again.
So I didn't peel the walnuts. So that's, yeah. I tried. I worked on it last night, but I didn't get very far.
God, it's so much work.
How far ahead of guests can you prepare these? Would you be able to prepare a day in advance and refrigerate, or it really has to be fresh?
Yeah. In fact, because they are served cold, yes, you could do that. You can make the sauce ahead of time. You can do everything ahead of time. I wouldn't serve them cold. They're not like refrigerated cold. They just actually Diane Kennedy, I've always had them cold, like room temperature cold, but Diane Kennedy says that what does she say about that? I was a little surprised. Where does she say this? I saw something about it that it's served.
No, I'm not gonna find it now. So she serves it warm, a little bit warm with the sauce being cold. So I've always had it cold. So, or room temperature, not refrigerated cold. So yes, you could do it in advance. Anything else?
I don't see other questions in the chat. Would anyone like to unmute themselves to ask any other questions?
Kim,
I don't
do you
have
know
a
of any
question.
San Diego restaurant that has these on their menu?
I don't know. I don't know. I hear that's Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. I don't know if anybody does.
Thank you
I
for
would.
being brave to do this. That was great. And you make the cooking look, something that those of us that are not cooking specialists could do, right? You struggled a little bit with the blender. That makes it, more something we could all try.
I hardly ever use a blender. This is not. So, but you kind of have to use it for, well, the thing is that if you have another way of getting the walnuts, really, it was my mistake not getting the walnuts more finely chopped, and it's really getting the walnuts more smooth. And then you could actually fold everything together. It's really about the walnuts. And I am happy with the consistency here. This is pretty much, this is correct.
I think
in
your
my
dish
experience.
it looks delicious and beautiful. I wish I was there
Thank
with
you.
you.
That was,
Yes, I wish
I
we
agree,
could all
Shirley.
taste it.
All right. I don't see any other questions, just a lot of delicious comments in the chat. So thank you so much, Kim. This was fantastic, and I look forward to getting the recipe and trying it myself.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Lots of pictures, Kim.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you so much for coming, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.